Hey, hey, Tampa Bay, the Bucs know how to shine. Hey, hey, Tampa Bay, the Bucs know how to shine. Give a cheer for the Buccaneers. Give a cheer for the Buccaneers.
Hey, hey, Tampa Bay, the Bucs know how to shine.
Hey, hey, Tampa Bay, the Bucs know how to shine. Give a cheer for the Buccaneers. Go Bucs! Give a cheer for the Buccaneers.
Stand up.
Give a cheer for the Buccaneers. Go Bucs! Because we know we're on the top. We stand up! Hey, Tampa Bay, the Bucs know how to shine. Hey, Tampa Bay, the Bucs know how to shine. They follow that something we ain't going out because we know we're on the top. We stand up.
Stand up and shout.
Go Bucs.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Frankly Speaking Sports on this beautiful Monday, cool evening here from Tampa, Florida. And we got a fun, full-packed show for you today. We're going to go over lots and lots and lots of things, especially in regards to your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The close game yesterday, 27-24 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs, and we're going to talk in depth, especially during the first segment. I do want to remind all of you joining us on different platforms, if you can please do me one quick favor, very, very quick favor. It'll take you 1 second. Go ahead and share this to your timeline. Just take one moment, hit the share button, share it to your timeline so all your friends can go ahead, get involved, participate, and even call in if they would like to. And, you know, it obviously was not a game that was in the best interest of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We want to welcome Eric to our show. Also want to remind you in the first 10-second segment of our show tonight, we are going to allow you to call in. That's right. We are allowing you to get involved, to call in, or at least leave a message like Eric just did to say hello. And let's talk about some Tampa Bay Buccaneer football as we should go on. In about 30 minutes, folks, we're going to have former two-time World Series champion. He pitched for the Toronto Blue Jays during the 91, 92, 93 seasons when Toronto was unbelievable, won 2 World Series championships. He also pitched for St. Louis, Arizona, Texas. We're going to have the great Todd Stottlemyre joining us in about 30 minutes to talk a little baseball with us as we're only a couple months away from spring training starting. But yesterday, tough loss for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And there's a lot I'm going to go over. And I think I got the problem, folks. And, for all of you guys out there and ladies out there, constantly looking for what is wrong with this team? What is wrong with this team? Is it Tom Brady? Is it Coach Arians? Is it Byron Leftwich? Is it Todd Bowles? Is it Donovan Smith? What is wrong with this team? And we're constantly trying to find out. Well, today and tonight, we're going to try to answer those questions for you. Once again, if you'd like to call in, get on this show, ask questions in regards to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, any Tampa sports, you can call in at 813-922-9810. That's right, it's 813-922-9810. Call in, ask questions, and we'll be more than happy to do our best job answering those questions for you. Once again, I want to welcome everybody to our show tonight. We are currently coming in live on crewforlife.com and also on YouTube. Right now, folks, listen to this. I mean, this is amazing right now. Where we came from when we started this about 10 months ago, to where we are today. Right now, we are being transmitted, listen to this number, folks, to anywhere between 20 and 30,000 people right now that have access to our show right at this very moment. So thank you very much, crewforlife.com, YouTube, and all our other platforms that have made us so much of a success. But let's go ahead. Let's dive into this game. Obviously the first quarter was nothing to write home about. But, when we talk about the first quarter, we talk about something that we've been talking about the entire year. And for anyone that listens to this show, it should be nothing new for you to go ahead and hear me say. Our cornerbacks are not very good. They're not the worst in the league, but by far they're not the best in the league. And from the beginning of the year, from the start of the season, everybody's going, oh, Larry, you're too hard on our defense. You're too hard on our defense. At the end of the day, I made you guys a promise. Said I am only going to tell you things that I see with my own eyes or hear with my own ears that are 100% factual. And I don't think it's any surprise after yesterday's game where people are starting to say, you know what? This guy, Larry Frank from Frankly Speaking Sports, really knows what the heck he's talking about. Holy crap. Well, these cornerbacks are not good. You saw Carlton Davis have a terrible, terrible game. You kind of felt bad for him after a while. But once again, I said, as long as you are an average to good quarterback, if you folks out there thought Jared Goff could go ahead and pick apart this team like he did when the Rams played the Bucs and didn't expect Patrick Mahomes to do so, you're kidding yourself. You're only kidding yourself. And Carlton Davis to be on Tyreek Hill by himself in that game, just showed you how poorly of a game plan we had coming into this game. Give Patrick Mahomes credit where credit is due. He threw for over 400 yards, I think close to that in the first half alone. So credit where credit due. But this is where the issue is. Tom Brady, respectable game. Yes, he had 2 picks. 27 of 41, 345 yards, 3 touchdown passes. Ronald Jones, 9 rushes, 66 yards. We're going to get into that in a moment. But this is the issue, okay? It's one or two things that is wrong with this team. Tom Brady is not the issue. Antonio Brown is not the issue, okay? I don't even think Byron Leftwich is the issue. The issue is really simple on this team, and I'm about to reveal it right now. It's 2 things that I believe that is wrong with this team right now, and it's keeping them from winning right now, right at this point. Number 1, the system is not right. I don't think it takes a genius to figure out that this system that we're currently using is not the correct system for Tom Brady. It is not the right system. And I'm going to talk about that in depth in a minute. But the other issue with this team could be the coach. Not once this year have you heard Coach Arians take any responsibility for anything that is going wrong with this team. It's always Tom Brady or somebody else's fault. It's never Coach Arians' fault. The problem with Coach Arians is he's too stubborn and he's too old school, and he will not do anything to go ahead and change what is going on currently on this team. It's basically he's saying it's my way or the highway, and that's not going to work on this team, Coach. It's not going to work. That's number 1. Number 2, Tom Brady could be very successful in any system. The problem is, at least give him a system that he's used to. And I'm going to call out Coach Arians right here, and I hope this gets back to him, and I hope every single station plays this. But he came out yesterday after the game and made a statement yesterday, and I don't know if everyone heard it, but he said to the media people, he made this comment. Hold on one second. Okay. Made the comment that Tom's been calling the plays. Tom Brady has not been calling the plays. I repeat, he has not been calling the plays at all. And I'm going to tell you what, In the second half of that game yesterday was the first time that Tom Brady was actually calling the plays by himself without anybody interjection. I will make you that promise. I will look you in the mirror and tell you I am 100% right. Because anybody that has watched Brady over the last 20 years like I have knows when Tom is comfortable. In that second half, I think Tom looked more comfortable than he did the entire year that he's been playing with the Buccaneers. I saw him making passes. See, if you know Tom Brady is one of those guys who throws the occasional deep ball, likes to use the middle of the field, hit his receivers in the middle of the field about 10 yards deep, and, even then use a running game and mix it in between. That's the Tom Brady that everybody knows. What Tom Brady does is he opens up the deep game by getting those intermediate passes and then being able to throw deep. And if you watch that game yesterday, when the Buccaneers became somewhat of a success and looked somewhat in sync in that offense, it was when people were moving around, when they were doing play action with Ronald Jones or moving a tight end from one side to the other side. For those of you people that like to knock Tony Romo, maybe it's about time you be quiet for a couple of minutes, keep your mouth shut, and listen to what Tony Romo is saying. When you go ahead and you start moving guys around, playing play action, putting men in motion, you give Tom an opportunity to pick things up. And what does Tony mean by that? When you stay still and you're using one formation and not moving everybody around, the defense is staying still. And when the defense is staying still, you can't read or pick up some of these tricks the defense is going to play. Now, stay with me, guys. You go ahead and you put a guy in motion or you have a play action. Now you're moving the defense. So now Tom can look out of his eyes and say, okay, I'm moving Antonio Brown to this side. This guy is moving to the other side with Antonio Brown. So I know Antonio Brown is covered by this particular guy. I can either go one-on-one with him, or this is not the matchup I want, and I'm going to go down to a second, third, or check down to possibly a fourth receiver. That's the game of football, and that's not what the Buccaneers are doing. But when they started doing it, and when Tom started calling the plays, you saw a lot more play action and a lot more success, not just with the deep ball, folks, but you saw it with the intermediate passes across the middle to Gronk. I think Gronk had I'm not sure how many catches. I think he had 6 catches for over 100 yards yesterday. Godwin had some catches, beautiful deep pass, of course, but others across the middle. You open up the deep throw. It's not the fact that Tom Brady can't throw the deep pass. It's that they know he's throwing the deep pass. And anytime you're giving the defense, that little inch to letting them know that you're throwing a long ball, it's going to work against you. And that's what's going on with this team. Not enough play action, not a lot of movement. And then the other thing is, I don't know what Bruce Arians is smoking, but my goodness, when you get a guy that runs for a touchdown 37 yards or 98 yards or whatever it may be, what the heck are you doing taking him out of the game and alleviating him from the offense? He has the hot hand. Keep him in the game and use that hot hand when he's delivering. Ronald Jones needs to be in that game. Yes, Ronald Jones, we know. And the problem with Ronald Jones is real simple. And if you haven't figured it out, it's real easy. Excuse me a second, folks. But the thing with Ronald Jones is the reason why he's not in there enough is his own fault, too. It's a combination of the two. Because Ronald Jones, the one thing Ronald Jones doesn't do well that Leonard Fournette does better is blocking. There's too many times when Ronald Jones lets somebody beat him and they end up getting pressure on Tom Brady. See, in order for Ronald Jones to become that all-purpose back that can run the ball, catch the ball, and be all-purpose, you got to be able to block as well. And that's something they need to work with him on, because right now, sometimes I understand this part of the game. You bring in Ronald Jones, 9 out of 10 times they're going to know he's getting the ball because they know he can't block for anything. So, and welcome Ronnie to the Tommy to the show. Tommy, the reason we took Rojo out, I just said that, Tommy, was because his inability to block. And I do understand that from a scheme. But in order to answer everybody's question, Tom Brady, nothing is wrong with Tom Brady. It takes time to learn a new system, but it's even more difficult to go ahead and learn a system and master the system when you're not getting a lot of help from your head coach and possibly even Byron Leftwich. They need to let Tom Brady. They say, well, Tom called the games he picked. Just because he picks the plays he likes doesn't mean he's calling that game. You guys are full of crap when you say Tom Brady is calling the shots on offense. Tom Brady, now if you tell me, was calling the shots in the second half, I 100% agree with that. And I will say he was, because you could tell the major difference. Look at Gronk. What a beast he was. One of the animalistic beasts of the second half for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Godwin was a beast. Evans, yes, he had a couple catches, but he did what he's supposed to do. He scored 2 touchdowns. Okay? This is a coaching issue. And I'm going to tell you, part of solving an issue, part of solving a problem is identifying the problem. And until Bruce Arians can look in the mirror and say, I am the problem, it will not be corrected just because of a bye week. It will not be corrected. The only way it's going to be corrected is if he looks in that mirror and says, I am the problem. What do I have to do as an individual, as a coach, to make this team click? And you know what? If he hasn't asked Tom Brady this question yet, then that's a problem as well. Take accountability, Bruce. Stop acting like a little baby. You got to give in a little bit. Old school is not going to work here. That stubborn, I don't give a crap if you don't like it, hit the highway is not going to work. That style will not work in the NFL today. You as a coach have to adjust, but not just on the field. You also have to learn how to adjust as a person, as an individual. You can learn something here. If you and Tom stick heads together, I could run that offense with my eyes closed starting tomorrow and guarantee you we would not lose another game. Because basically what I would do is I'd go to Tom and say, Tom, what do you want to run? This is what I want to do. I want to open it up, Tom, because this is what I think you're better at. What do you think? And I would say, Tom, you're better when we play action, when we go ahead and we put a runner, in motion, when we throw in the intermediate part of the field, boom, start hitting, you go boom, 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 then all of a sudden go deep, then hand it off to Rojo for a 20-yard run. That's how you play football, not handing off every first down of every game and falling down 7-0, 14-0, 17-0 in these games. And you sit down with Tom and Tom says, okay, this is what I feel most comfortable with. Okay, Tom, this is what I like to see us do. Let's start with a fast tempo game. Fool the opposing team. They're not used to it. We'll come out. We'll have these set plays, which we usually have, which you have the ability to adjust, and let's run a no-huddle offense. He's ran that no-huddle offense in New England to perfection many, many times. And let him run with it. And let's see what happened. Let's see what type of game Tom Brady is seeing out there. It doesn't matter what Bruce Arians is seeing. It doesn't matter what Byron Leftwich is seeing. It matters what Tom Brady is seeing. And if he is not seeing something, why isn't he seeing it? Well, we know that answer. He's not seeing it because you're using the same stupid damn formation every play, so he can't see the entire field. Mix it up, run that play option, put your wide receivers and tight ends in motion. You'll see people moving around, and I guarantee you, you will see the Tom Brady of old like that. It's a quick switch. It takes a man as a coach to be able to make that move. And I can't look at my listeners through the mirror or through the video that I'm looking at and telling you we have that right man in place right now. Because right now he's too stubborn to give in. It's all about Bruce Arians. This ain't about Tom Brady. This ain't about the Bucs winning. This is about Bruce Arians living out his glory. You know, everyone talks about how great of a coach Bruce Arians is. Yes, he won 2 coaches of the year. One was on an interim basis, did a great job. What has he done in the playoffs? Nothing. You know, he's gotten 2 teams to the playoffs, I think. Otherwise, he was offensive coordinator. Him as a head coach is, you know, and I don't want to say he doesn't have the ability to be a great coach, but in order for him to be that great coach, he's going to have to listen. Listen. All he's doing is hearing right now. He's not listening to the information he's getting. He's basically telling everybody to shut the hell up and listen to him, and this is what we're going to do. And that will not win game. If he can learn, I'm telling you guys and ladies, if he looks in the mirror and just makes that switch and does these few little things that I mentioned about play action, about listening to his quarterback, make your quarterback feel comfortable. Like, you know, I'm not saying baby Tom Brady, but at least show him a little bit of respect and that you have confidence in him instead of ridiculing him and embarrassing him all the time in the media. That's not the way it's done nowadays, Bruce Arians. Wake up, smell the coffee. This is a good football team. This is a football team that should win their last 4 games. They got Atlanta twice, Detroit, and they start off with Minnesota at home. Now, Minnesota's a good team. They got Kirk Cousins. I don't know about the status of Dalvin Cook, but this is a good team. Excuse me. And we're going to need our A game in order to beat them. Now, once again, and I don't want to sound like someone beating, a drum over and over and over again. If you want to win this game, if you think this is the team, then those are the things that need to be done. Okay? I'm not saying we need a coaching change. Listen to me. I'm not saying we need a coaching change. We need our coach to change, but not necessarily a coaching change. Grow up, Bruce Arians. Let your team has input, and you'll find out that you will be a much better offense starting in the next 2 weeks if you just do those things. I've been around great coaches. I've been around the Don Shulas that uses their coaches, uses their players. You don't think Don Shula ever asked Dan Marino when I was there, what do you think, Dan? All the time. Doesn't mean he always listened to Dan. There's times that Don Shula will say, no, I don't agree with that. I think we should do that. And they discuss it and they think what's the best for the team. The team. Not for the individual, but for the team. So I'm going to end that segment that way. Once again, we are about 5 minutes away from having the great former Toronto Blue Jay Major League pitcher for 15 years, Todd Stottlemyre, joining us. So we're looking forward to that. Let me go ahead, and I've just got an email. Let me make sure that's not from Todd. All right, let me go ahead. For some reason, Todd didn't get my link, so let me go ahead and send him that again. Everybody stand by a minute. All right, stay with me, folks. All right. There we go. Make sure one more time I got it in there. There we go. All right, we'll give him a couple minutes. That was my fault to come on. And we'll get him on in a couple seconds. I sent him the message without the link. So we'll give him a couple of seconds right now to come on. Let's see what else. Guys, I want to remind you that tomorrow night, let's first go ahead and talk about this while we're waiting for Todd to come on. It's a couple seconds away. Tomorrow night, if you have not joined Bullseye yet, please go ahead and do so. If you are on Facebook, go to the Facebook group Bullseye. You will get all the latest USF news, sports information regarding the University of South Florida Bulls. That's number one. But also, you get access to our Tuesday night Bullseye show, which always features a former, current, or someone that has to do with the athletic department at USF on the show during our Bullseye show. Tomorrow night, the greatest player, by far to ever put on a USF Bulls men's basketball uniform, Charlie Bradley. That's right, the great Charlie Bradley. If you're from Tampa, listen to the show. I know you know that name. Charlie Bradley will be joining us tomorrow night. We also have on Wednesday and Thursday special guests. We have people from the Toronto Raptors on Thursdays, reporters joining us. Later this week, Len Martez. Early next week on Frankly Speaking Sports. Guys, I cannot tell you how happy I am. We are going to have Mike Easler, former Major League first baseman from the Pittsburgh Pirates, is going to be joining us. Also, we're going to have next, I believe, Wednesday, but definitely next week, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, Chris Gronkowski, brother of Rob Gronkowski and former NFL player, also has his own business. We're going to let him promote a little bit. The Shake It Up or something to that effect. That's amazing. I'm going to have him go ahead on the show, and we'll talk some NFL football. I believe that's going to be next Wednesday night on Frankly Speaking Sports. So lots and lots and lots of good stuff. Let me go ahead and see if Todd got that. I think he did. Just sent to email. I'm just making sure. All right. So that should be moments away. Let's hope so. All right. So as we go through that, let me see while we're waiting if I got any messages. But all right, nothing there. All right, Tommy, I don't know if I welcomed you to the show. I also want to welcome Lenoxin. Excuse me on the pronunciation. Looks like Lenoxin. Thank you for coming on the show tonight. We're about 2-3 minutes away from having the great Todd Stottlemyre joining us. So, folks, bear with us for one moment. We'll have him on. Also, for those of you that are joining us, wanted to let you know there are many different ways you can watch us. I mentioned to you earlier that we do have a YouTube channel. For those of you that have YouTube, go to YouTube, type in Frankly Speaking Sports, and you will go ahead and you will be able to go ahead and subscribe to YouTube. Watch all our live shows, previous shows, including our Bullseye platform. So that includes all our Bullseye shows, all our CrewForLife.com shows, and all of our Frankly Speaking Sports. Also, go ahead and join us on Twitter. If you have a Twitter handle, go to @LarryFrankus. That's with the US at the end. You can join our YouTube. We're constantly retweeting latest information in the sports world as we get it in from some of our amazing, frankly speaking, sports insiders out there. We go with the best insiders in the industry, and we're proud to say that. And we get as much information and we pass it on as quickly as possible. I got the other day a note. Larry, how do you know things before they post it on ESPN or some of these other websites? Let me either just follow. But Todd said he's coming on right now, so we're a couple of minutes away. So go to YouTube, go to Twitter, and join us for this great different platforms. Also, Todd's about to come on now, but after the interview with Todd or before, if you can get on, go ahead, give us a call. The number here is 813-922-9810. We're talking Bucs. What is wrong with the Tampa Bay Bucs? Or is there anything wrong with the Tampa Bay Bucs? The reason I say that is, we are 7-5. If we have the potential, you have to play the games, but we have the potential now to go really 4-0, end the season on a high note, winning 4 games in a row. And how often do I tell you folks, it's not the team with the best record like the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are currently undefeated when you go into the playoffs. It's the team playing the best football at the time the playoff starts that really goes far in the playoff. And if the Bucs can win the next 4 games and win out, that would be 11-5. Yet we still find people in the Tampa Bay area bitching about an 11-5 record. Okay? I don't care about the record. The key is to get to the playoffs and win in the playoffs. And that's what you need to do to be a successful team in the NFL. So that's what we needed to know. It is my great honor. We're going to bring it in a few seconds here, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great honor, thrill, and most of all pleasure to introduce to you on Frankly Speaking Sports video hotline here. Let's welcome in Todd Stottlemyre. Todd, how you doing tonight?
Great, Larry. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Sorry about the difficulty of getting you. I forgot to send you the link. I'm like,
me and technology we don't get along too well.
Yeah, I'm kind of that way myself. So we're working together on this. So Todd, once again, I hope you had a great holiday, and thanks for joining us right after the holidays here. We do appreciate it.
It was awesome. Even though, I guess internally as a family, we got together, but our extended family, mothers and mother-in-laws and brothers and brother-in-laws and all of that, everyone kind of did it on their own. And we tried to follow along, but I would tell you, it's been a different year. It was a different Thanksgiving, but we're making the best of it.
Yeah, Todd, let's start off with this. One of the things that amazed me about you, and I follow your family since I was a little kid. Obviously, your dad, growing up in New York, I obviously knew who your dad was and everything. But I thought it was amazing when I looked at something about you. I said, what is it that maybe I don't know about Todd? And it took you 3 times to get drafted before you actually decided to sign a contract.
Yeah, pretty crazy when you think about it, because, and you mentioned my father, from growing up in Yankee Stadium, in the mid 60s to early 70s with my father, going to Yankee Stadium for every home game, putting on my Yankee uniform on. And then, that dream was really inspired around that environment, around my father. My brothers and I, all we wanted to do was follow my father's footsteps. All we ever wanted to do was just play Major League Baseball. And then out of high school, I get drafted by the Yankees. And you think, for a kid that roamed around Yankee Stadium to now get drafted by the Yankees, it was the only dream we had. It was everything. and then to say no to the Yankees and go to college sounds a little crazy, but I was young. I just barely turned 18. And my brother had gone to college the year before, and I thought, what the heck? I'll go spend a couple years with my brother at school. If I'm still good enough, then I'll get drafted again. And if I'm not good enough, being drafted the first time, it wasn't going to mean anything anyway. So I chose to go to school, and then was drafted by the Cardinals, oddly enough, out of a winter draft when they used to have the winter draft. And I was ready. I thought I was ready then, but I kind of was coming off of an injury from the year before, so I really wasn't pitching to my capabilities. And I thought, what the heck? And I just continued on through school and then get drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays and end up signing with the Toronto Blue Jays and starting my career in Canada.
And let's talk about Canada. I mean, you're here living in the United States, and I mean, I hear people say about playing in Canada, playing in the US. For you, was it as difficult as some people makes it sound to be able to play, or was it just like playing for any other major league team except you don't live in that city where you're necessarily playing?
Yeah, I would tell you it was a little different. Crossing back and forth the border and all of that, and dealing with passports and going through customs, and then of course, the money is a little bit different, and you had to try to figure all that out. But other than that, I would tell you that the city of Toronto was incredible. Playing in Canada was unique, and to not only play in Canada but to win championships in Canada, because you didn't just represent a city. You were truly representing an entire country, and to play in a World Series, to win world championships in Canada. I look back on those days and they were just so special because, and it's the only time the Blue Jays have ever won were the years that when we had teams there in 92, 93 was the only time they've ever won a world championship. So for us, always going back in the reunions, it's so unbelievably special. And once again, it was pretty crazy because that club, we had people from Puerto Rico and Venezuela, Dominican Republic, from the United States. You had people from multiple countries coming together, 25-man team, one locker room, one vision, everyone pulling the same rope, and for the country of Canada. So we took a lot of pride in representing not only the city of Toronto, but the country of Canada.
And, you couldn't have picked a better time to come on with Toronto. I mean, you came on in 88, but it wasn't long before. It was 92 when you won the first World Series, and then 93. I think you won back-to-back, if I remember correctly. And your best season, I think, with Toronto, and you had a couple of them, but I think you won 15 games in 91. Talk about, every time somebody starts in the major league, there's somebody, especially when you start as a rookie, there's somebody that grabs you under their wing and says, hey, kid, let me show you how this is done. Who was that for you when you were with Toronto?
I had some great guys. Mike Flanagan, rest in peace. Mike Flanagan, he was a left-handed pitcher, but, just being an older veteran, took me under his wing. I think about Jimmy Key. I think about Tom Hankey. And then, came along a little later on was Jack Morris. And then, my mentor, who really became probably my best friend in the sport or in the game, and is one of my best friends today, is a guy by the name of Dave Stewart. And he didn't join this until 1993, but, he joined our club when I needed him the most. And he was just an incredible mentor to me, become a great friend of mine, and pushed me and helped me. And took me under his wing, and I couldn't have been more grateful to have such great people around me when I was a young player.
Yeah, and they had an unbelievable pitching staff all throughout the time. You mentioned Dave Stewart is not just a great pitcher, probably one of the smartest men around baseball still today.
Yeah,
when it
for
comes
sure.
to that mind that he has. But you had Guzman on that team. And I think Hennigan was on that. Al Leiter might have even been
Al
there.
Leiter was on the club, yeah.
Yeah.
There were so many pitchers: David Wells, Dwayne Ward, Tom Hankey, Dave Steve, David Cohn, Jack Morris. It's funny because I kind of almost laugh when I look back at those clubs. But 92, 93. You think about it. Robbie Alomar was playing second base. He's in the Hall of Fame. Jack Morris was on the club. He was in the Hall of Fame. Ricky Henderson played left field for us in 93. He's in the Hall of Fame. Dave Winfield was our designated hitter in 92. He's in the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's just incredible, all the guys that played together for a couple years. Paul Molitor was a designated hitter. He's in the Hall of Fame. I just mentioned 5 guys that were on those championship teams that today are in the Hall of Fame that represent the elite of the sport. And to share uniforms with them, to have a front row seat, to watch them go through day to day, how they prepared for a game, what they act like when we won, what they act like when we lost. For a young pitcher growing up in the game and sharing that uniform and being able to learn so much from them. And then I think about the earlier guys, the Jesse Barfields, the Lloyd Mosbys, the George Bells, the Tony Fernandez. I mean, there was so much greatness throughout that organization, through that club, and I was just blessed to be a part of it.
Now, you're talking about a front row seat, Todd. I have to ask you this question. In the World Series, Joe Carter versus Mitch Webster, you had a front row seat. Tell me what that was like to witness Joe hitting not just probably one of the biggest, I think he's only one of 2 players to ever hit a walk-off homer to win the World Series, and you had a front row seat for that.
Yeah, I got to tell you something funny about that, Larry. It's pretty crazy. I was warming up in the bullpen, and the bullpen, because if the game was tied, I was coming in the game in the next inning. And so I was heating up, getting ready for the next inning. And in the left field bullpen, you can't see the playing field from the pitcher's mound. So as I'm warming up, the crowd goes crazy. And then literally standing in the bullpen, I see the ball fly over the fence and into the stands just above the bullpen. And I'm thinking, someone just hit a home run. I have no idea what just happened, but the bullpen door swings open. People are going crazy. Guys are running out on the field. I'm literally running out on the field, having no idea how we just won the game. I literally, the only time that I've gotten a chance to see Joe Carter take Mitch Williams deep in that World Series walk-off home run was on a replay. So I'm probably the one guy on the whole team. It's funny when I think back on it, but I'm probably the one guy on the whole team didn't even see it live. I actually had to watch it on replay. But, I mean, it was a crazy feeling and crazy thoughts. It's like I'm running in from that bullpen. Guys are going crazy. The pile up. And I have no idea how we won the game. I was just overjoyed. We were world champions again.
And, you were on some other good teams as well that went to it. It seems like, if I'm not incorrect, that every team you played for at one time, you had a playoff appearance. I mean, I think Texas, Arizona, St. Louis, the Blue Jays. I mean, Texas, the only one I forgot in there. But
yeah, so Oakland was the only one where I played 1 year there, and it was kind of a transition year. And we had a great team coming out of spring training. But, Darling, he ended up getting hurt. Dave Stewart ended up getting hurt. That's 2 of our starting pitchers. So, when you take 2 guys like that out of the starting rotation, things begin to unwind in the second half. But all those other clubs you just mentioned, we made it to the playoffs in each and every one of those clubs. So, I played 15 years or parts of 15 years. I think we went to the playoffs 8 times. So it was kind of like, it was pretty spoiled. It was like you go to spring training every year and you're playing on a club that could truly win a world championship every single year. And to go to spring training and to have those great clubs and in spring training to have the thought, man, we got a team that can win a world championship. Literally every year of my career was the exact same way.
Todd, why don't you talk about, you mentioned early in the show your dad, and I want to make sure we give him a little, let him, get credit for what incredible man he was. Let me ask you this. He was, of course, on the road a lot. He played Major League Baseball just like you and your brother did. What kind of influence did he have on you from a play in the major league standpoint?
Well, the greatest influence, and I would tell you that, and I say that as we were growing up, too, as kids, there was never pressure for us to play. Matter of fact, my father would tell us all the time, he goes, look, guys, I don't care what you do. You need to be you. And he always said that no matter what you do, even if you dig ditches, if you're a doctor, he goes, I don't care whatever your dreams are, whatever your desires are, whatever you choose to do, just go out and strive to be the best you can at whatever you pick. So there was never pressure to play the game. I would tell you that it came naturally for us. I mean, we loved the game. We loved hanging out at the stadium. We loved everything about the environment. We truly wanted to follow in his footsteps. But Dad was more than a dad. He was more than a father. He was a coach. He was a mentor. He was a best friend. He was an accountability partner, would hold us accountable. And he was truly, for my brother and I, he was our hero, man. And he just meant the world to us.
Now, how did you know from a ball player's standpoint, Todd? And when I say when to let go, I don't mean when to let go. Of course, he's your dad, but there's a point where you got to make a decision like, okay, I'm playing in the major leagues. My dad was an unbelievable pitcher, probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest pitching coaches in the game. Who do I listen to? I got my coaches here, but I know my dad's what he's talking. Was there a point where you had to say, okay, I have to start, listening to my own coaches, or did you all? I mean, I'm sure you always seeked advice from your dad.
Well, I had great pitching coaches. First of all, Galen Cisco, I think of him earlier on in Toronto. I had Al Wimore. I think about Dave Duncan. I had in Oakland and St. Louis. So, I mean, I had great pitching coaches along the way. But, funny thing is when times are tough, man, and I went through some tough times. There was times where things were going great and there was times where they weren't going so great. But the tougher the times were, the more frequent I would call my father. And, he was my most trusted advisor. And, I remember one time I called him. Actually, I called him in 92 and I was with Toronto. It was late. It was in August and we were in the middle of a pennant race and the club wasn't really playing well. And I was coming off like 3 or 4 starts where I was just horrendous, man. I was having a tough time even getting to the 5th inning. And it seemed like every time I went out there, it was like, singles, doubles, triples, homers. I was backing up third base. It felt like on every other pitch. I called Dad. I said, Dad. And at the time he was a pitching coach with the Mets. I said, Dad, I'm struggling. And he goes, I can see that. And he kind of chuckled. I said, Dad, it ain't funny, man. I'm telling you, I'm really struggling. And I'll remember what he said to me. I'll never forget it. He said, listen, Todd, he says, I got 3 things for you. If you'll do these, you'll dominate. And I said, dominate? I said, I don't need to dominate. I just need to get through the 5th inning, man. He goes, listen to me. He says, if you do these 3 things, you'll go out and you'll dominate. And those 3 things were and he goes, then go work on it in between your starts. Stay back in your delivery, finish strong in your delivery, and just think down in the strike zone and be aggressive. And I was thinking to myself, man, that's simple. I can do that. He goes, yeah. And if you'll do that, you'll dominate. He said, there's one more thing. And I was like, I knew it. I knew it couldn't have been that easy. He said, on the bill of your cap, he says, I want you to write in big, bold letters. I want you to write the word KISS, K-I-S-S. He says, now, do you know what that stands for? I said, what's that stand for, Dad? He said, keep it simple, stupid. And I said, all right, I got it. He says, now, you get into a game. And he says, and things start to go unravel, just step off the back of the mound, take off the bill, take off your cap, take a look and make sure you read those words. Keep it simple, stupid. He says, now, do you know what keep it simple stands for? And I was like, KISS? He said, no, keep it simple, stupid stands for stay back, finish strong, think down. That's all you need to do. Just keep the game simple. My next start was in Comiskey Park against the Chicago White Sox. I probably threw the best game of my life. I gave up the only hit I gave up was in the 8th inning. I almost threw a no-hitter. We beat the White Sox that night 9-0, and then I went on a roll. And I always tell people it looked like overnight success. I couldn't even get through the 5th inning. How does a guy go from not being able to get through the 5th inning to literally overnight almost throw the best game of his life? It's because stay back, finish strong, and think down. I've been doing my whole life. My father just kind of took me back to the drawing board and said, keep the game simple, son. So there were times, lots of times like that and lots of messages like that throughout 15 years of my career.
And one last thing was talking about your dad is I don't think people realized, because he was such an unbelievable pitching coach, of how great of a pitcher he was when he played the game. I mean, I looked at some of your stats and I see 25 complete games. And I'm like, Don, you don't hear about that anymore. And,
Yeah.
and then I look at your dad. It's 5-time All-Star, 5-time World Series champ, 152 complete games. And in 1 year, if I'm correct, he had 18 complete games. Nowadays, we're lucky to see a guy go into the 6th inning. I mean, even yourself, do you think, I mean, I know you would adjust, you're an athlete, but today's game with the way pitches are handled, I mean, obviously are way different than when your dad played, but are even way different than when you played.
Yeah, you think about it, I had 25 complete games. I laugh because my father had 40 shutouts in 10 years. So he had more shutouts than I had complete games. So the game was starting as I was kind of as towards the end of my career, the game was starting to kind of move that way. And it's like, it's and I always say, analytics and analytics have always been part of the game. We always had the charts and, who the first ball, fastball hitters, who runs, who this. So you always collected that data, but that data was a tool. It was just a tool. Today, that data runs the game and runs how a game is managed. That's the difference. Data analytics always been a part of the game. It's always trying to figure out a way to get an edge. It's always literally always been a part of the game. The difference today is it's not a spoke in the wheel. It's not a tool. Analytics is no longer a tool. Analytics as literally driving the game. I mean, think about it from a starting pitching standpoint. They don't even care about how deep a starting pitcher gets into the game. Here's the role of a starting pitcher in today's over-analyzed analytic baseball system. The starting pitcher's goal and role is to go through the lineup twice, and that's it.
Correct.
And whatever that takes, listen, if that's 3 or 4 innings, it's 3 or 4 innings. You're done. Congratulations. You made it through the order 2 times, and we're still in the ball game. To me, that just is the most ridiculous thing I've ever even heard. I mean, if people want to know, look, the game is always going to evolve. It's always going to change. At the end of the day, you still got to play 9 innings. There's still 3 outs per side. You still got to go out and play and perform. But where analytics has come in, to me, it's changed the role of the starting pitcher. And I just don't know if it'll ever go back. I think it's unfortunate what happened. And I think about the days. The other day it wasn't too long ago, I was on a podcast with Denny McClain. I mean, could you imagine a conversation with my father and Denny McClain, and then talking about today's starting pitcher and how it would even come close to comparing to those guys? Like, not even close. But not only that, even in my era, think about Jack Morris, right? Think about Randy Johnson. And think about pitch limits and these guys that have to be bounced out of games after 100 pitches. Randy Johnson wasn't even loose until he had 100 pitches. Matter of fact, I've watched Randy Johnson throw 150, 160, 170 pitches in a game, and on the 170th pitch, still throw 100 miles an hour. So if you look at some of those guys, and it's like some of the art of trying to figure out a way to pitch in the 7th, 8th, and 9th and be tired and go through the struggle and still find a way magically to get through the deal. It's like the starting pitcher has lost all of its personality.
Yeah, now let me ask you a question about starting pitchers or pitchers in general. And I want to get your opinion, and it's a 2-part. And the question is, we see all these injuries nowadays, and forget about this year with COVID-19. It was a very unique, different kind of year, but I'm talking in general, even before COVID-19. You see these arms getting hurt. Would you say that's more because, A, the velocity that a pitcher is starting to throw with is a lot, maybe 10 miles more, 8 miles more? Or is it because they're not throwing as deep into games, and then when you go to stretch them, their arm just isn't physically ready and strengthened enough to do that part?
Well, probably all of the above. It's probably a little bit of everything. I'm no doctor or scientist on the deal, but look, everyone will have their opinion. By the way, that's $1 million question, right?
Right.
How do we keep these guys healthy? Or maybe it's the $1 billion question. How do we keep them healthy, and how do we keep them healthy for example? Let's not forget that it's unorthodox the way that, to throw a baseball and the strain and stress that it puts on your arm, puts on your body. So number one, there's that stress. Number two is how are guys training, and are they training themselves to throw 120, 130 pitches in a ball game, or are they just training to throw 80 to 100 pitches in a ball game? So I don't really know the answer. I would tell you that I think it's all of the above, and all kinds of different pieces that are really employed in there.
Now, before I let you go, Todd, I want to let you talk about what you're currently doing. I know I've seen with the Observer, and I know a couple of other things out there you got going on. I want to make sure I saved enough time so that you could let people know exactly what you're doing, and how they can get involved, if there's a way they can get involved, and so on.
Well, I've been very blessed, after the game, after I was done playing, and growing up in Major League Baseball and then me playing Major League Baseball. But when I retired at 37, that's all I'd ever done. And whether I was growing up in the game or then playing the game, and when I was done, I decided to go kind of take a different path and different road. And I had a young family, and I wanted to be the father that woke up with my kids and had dinner with my kids and put them to bed and all of those things. So I went into the business world. Today, we have multiple, we have a bunch of different businesses that my partner and I own and oversee, and we've been very blessed. We're lucky. We got some great businesses treating us great. But the other thing I decided to do was start writing books, and that really started with my father. 5 years ago, I wrote my first book, and it was at a time when I was spending time with my dad, and he was just inspiring me in his battle with multiple myeloma. And I was like, man, I'm watching the greatest warrior in the world fight for his life. And I had greater at the age of 50, watching him go through it. He actually was inspiring me more then at 50 than he did as a little kid when I was roaming around Yankee Stadium. And because I understood what he was going through. And, I had a night there, and I just remember being at his house, and I was spending time with him, and he was going through a tough time. And I just was staring at the ceiling one night, and I was like, man, how is he doing it? How's he pushing through? And it just struck me. I just realized, like, man, I've had the greatest father in the world. He's inspired me like no other. He created some incredible environments, Yankee Stadium being one of those. And then to play in the game, I've been around great people, been around world champions, I've been around Hall of Famers, and I've been around a group of people that always helped me when I was in a struggle. And the mentorship, the accountability, that I had all this greatness around me, helping me perform at my highest level for me to have success. And what I realized that night with my father is I've never passed it on. See, I kind of felt like at that moment, I was like, man, I'm like the Dead Sea. It's like all this mentorship is flowing to me, but I never then passed it on to someone else. And I remember I walked downstairs the next morning. I said to my father, I said, Dad, I'm going to write a book. He goes, you should. And I said, Dad, I didn't tell you what I was going to write a book on yet. And I said, Dad, I'm going to write a book on all the mentors, starting with you, all the lessons, and all the things, all the models, the principles, the mindsets, all of these things that have contributed to my success. I want to write books so I can help someone contribute to their success. Today, I'm getting ready to launch my second book, Larry, and I've never been more proud of this book. And it's called The Observer. It goes live. You can pre-order it now, but it's going to be December 29th. It's going to launch. And this book, The Observer, is really about kind of stepping outside of yourself and understanding how are you thinking, how you're feeling, what are your emotions, your mind, your brain, and your heart, the connectivity, trying to pursuing to be the best version of yourself. And it really started out as a mess for me. And I kind of go back to 1993, and we just won our second world championship. And then after that second world championship, you look at me from the outside, I'm 28, I'm making $1 million a year. I'm living out my childhood dream. I'm a back-to-back world champion. And if you were looking from the outside, you're like, man, this guy's got it all. The problem was when I looked in the mirror, I didn't like the guy looking back at me. See, because the guy looking back at me in the mirror is the guy that gave a bone marrow transplant to my little brother 12 years earlier that put him into a coma and then took his life. And the emotion behind that was I was obviously the traditional sadness, but I also had hate in me. I was mad at the world for taking away my 11-year-old brother. I was 15 at the time, took my 11-year-old brother away from me. But I also felt guilty because it was my marrow that put him into a coma. And I was living in that shadow of that darkness. And that was what was inside of me. And I hadn't really forgiven myself for doing everything I could. And I remember after 1993, I was like, man, I'm not performing the way I want on the field. I think I'm better than I'm performing. But I also knew I wasn't performing well off the field. And I was like, I'm a better person than that. And I reached out to a guy by the name of Harvey Dorfman. He wrote The Mental Game of Baseball. He was the mindset guru in baseball. And I said, Harvey, this is Todd Stottlemyre. And he said, man, I've been waiting on your call. And I didn't even know Harvey knew who I was. And I said, Harvey, I need help. He says, I know. And we booked a meeting. We went over and I spent 12 hours with him in a hotel room. And the first thing he asked me, he said, Todd, would you do it again? I was like, man, do what? He goes, would you give that bone marrow transplant to your little brother again? Larry, I just broke out I was sobbing, man. I broke out and I started crying like a little baby. And I said, Harvey, I do it over and over and over. I do it every minute of every hour of every day. He said, didn't you already do everything you can do? And I said, yeah. He says, then let it go. He says, because you didn't kill you. You did everything you could for your little brother. You didn't kill your little brother. And it was like an elephant had just been released. See, no one had ever given me permission to forgive myself and realize that it wasn't me. That's not the reason. I did everything I could do. I just had never been granted permission to release that. I was living in a prison of unforgiveness. And in that prison of unforgiveness was hate and guilt. The last hour of the day with Harvey, here's what he said to me. For the next 7 days, he put me on a 7-day challenge. And this is the making of the observer. He said, listen, I want you to observe how you think and how you feel every time you go up against a challenge. You're not allowed to react. You're only allowed to document your thinking and your feeling. And then we're going to build strategy based on your thoughts and your emotions, and how we're going to build strategy on how you can perform on and off the field at higher levels. And I was like, wow. It was I'm telling you, that 7 days for me was life-changing, because here's the observer. You see, there's a stimulus. There's something that grabs our attention, our thoughts, our emotions, something that gets us fired up. And then there's a reaction to it. And sometimes that reaction is not the best reaction. Sometimes, and for me, my reaction back then, Larry, was hate and guilt and emotion and try to take over a situation instead of have a strategy on how to manipulate that and how to get the most out of that moment. You see, hate and guilt and unforgiveness was destroying my present moment mastery. And it was driving me nuts. But it was the beginning of the observer. And the observer is nothing that, just standing back. See, the observer is an inside out game. You got to build the inside out. You got to build the inside so that you can have success on the outside. You don't get to have outwardly success without building you on the inside. This is the making of the observer. And by the way, think about the world we live in. We got COVID, we've had politics, we've had race. And what do you know about COVID, politics, and race? There's so much hate. There's so much uncertainty. There's so much indecision. And it's like we've forgotten to love one another, Larry. We forgot the golden rule. Treat others how you want to be treated. We have forgotten that as a country, man. See, we're no longer free. See, as a country, we're living in a prison right now of hate. See, and I want to tell you, I believe the book, The Observer, probably might go down as the most important thing I've ever done in my life, because at the place the country is in. But here's the other thing. There are models and principles, high performance, successful models and principles weaved throughout the book for someone that wants to pursue their potential, to become the best version of themselves. Where did I get the lessons and models? A guy by the name of Mel Stottlemyre, right? I got it from a guy by the name of Cito Gaston. I got it from a guy by the name of Tony La Russa, Dave Stewart, Paul Muller, Dave Winfield, Ricky Henderson, Dennis Eckersley. I can go on and on and on because I got to steal all the success principles from them to use in my life. And through the Observer, it's my gift back to the world for anyone who wants to read it. It's an opportunity for you to get an understanding how you can go out and live the best version of yourself. That's the Observer.
And how did you say when it comes out that they can go about getting that, Todd?
Yeah, so you Amazon, all your favorite bookstores, this and that. Obviously, you can go to Amazon. You can come to Todd Official, by the way, Larry. I appreciate you allowing me to speak about this, but you can go to toddofficial.com and you can pre-order. There's the links on there for Barnes & Noble, Amazon, all the different links. But I also launched a book club on Facebook. It's totally free, 100% free. Come join my book club. The book club is called The Observer, Modern Fable to Mastering Thoughts and Emotions. And by the way, what am I going to do with the book club? It's going to give me an opportunity to share with people who go out and purchase the book, read the book. And I'm going to share in 2021 all 37 chapters. I'm going to go do Facebook Lives inside that group. And I'm going to talk about why that chapter was important in my life. Because The Observer has a lot of true life events that I went through that are weaved throughout the characters of this book. So I'm not only going to talk about each chapter, I'm going to talk about where did I get the lesson? Who did I learn this from? And what was going on in my life when I needed this lesson? My goal is so that it can apply to people, so it can be real to them, so that the book can be impactful, so it can actually be a teaching book.
And if you want, Todd, go ahead. And I know you sent it to me once on a messenger, but send that to Frankly Speaking Sports. I know you're on there,
yes.
And I'll go ahead and put that on the page as well, so that
awesome.
The listeners can go ahead and have access to it.
Yeah.
All right, my friend. Well, listen, I want to thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule near the holidays here and joining us on Frankly Speaking Sports.
You're awesome, Larry. I appreciate it. I appreciate your persistence. You've been after me and this and that, and it has been a busy time of the year, but I got to tell you, I was humbled and honored, sir. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, sir, and you have a great holiday.
All right. Take care, sir.
That was the great Todd Stottlemyre joining us live on Frankly Speaking Sports. And what an incredible story. I mean, once again, an incredible story. And we'll get that link for you, and we'll put it up on Frankly Speaking Sports. I mean, guys, I cannot tell you, we talk about it in sports, but in life, just like Todd was saying, how the mind is an amazing thing. And, you got to keep it clear. You got to keep it fresh. You got to stay positive. And for him to take his time out of what he's doing and using all his experience, not just from his dad, but from his own, experiences through major leagues, and telling people, how to have that winning attitude and winning mindset is just incredible. And we'll definitely make sure that we get that from Todd, and we definitely will go ahead and put that on the Frankly Speaking Sports website. What a show we had tonight. We talked about the Bucs. Couple quick reminders here. I'm looking at my phone just to make sure. There it is. Right. It looks like tomorrow, remember, we're going to be on Bullseye. The greatest player to ever play in USF basketball is going to be joining us live. Charlie Bradley, 9 p.m. tomorrow Eastern Time on our Bullseye platform. It's been scrolling along the bottom of our screen since the show started. If you're not a member of Bullseye, go to Bullseye, capital BULLS space I, all capital letters. Join so you can not only see this great interview that we do every weekly on our Tuesday night show, myself and my great co-host, Bradley Lewis Walker, but you also get the latest updated news and sports. I know the women basketball team at USF plays number 4 Baylor tomorrow, so we'll have live updates on that as well. Then a very special show Wednesday night here on Frankly Speaking Sports, beginning at 9 o'clock. We're going to have Katie Hendel. I believe it's Heindel, but I'll make sure I get the pronunciation right. She is a reporter for the Toronto Raptors. As you know, the Toronto Raptors are going to at least begin their season in the Tampa Bay area. She's going to come on. We're going to talk about them playing here. But we're also going to talk about a lot of the moves, some re-signing of Van Fleet, Boucher, and so on, and some of the people they picked up, Baines. So we're going to talk to, Katie about those pickups and the transactions the Toronto Raptors made. Then on Thursday night, along with my Frankly Speaking Sports correspondent Craig Frank, Len Montez, formerly of WDAE Radio, an on-air personality in sports, will be joining us live on Thursday night at 9 o'clock for Pigskin Thursday. Next week gets even better. We have Mike Eastland next week, Chris Gronkowski, just to name a few. It's amazing. We keep getting better and better and better. And it's because of you, the great fans out there. Once again, if you're not a member of our Facebook group, please go ahead and join. Otherwise, join our YouTube page, Frankly Speaking Sports. You can also join us on Twitter at Larry Frankus with a U.S. at the end. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for joining this evening. We'll see you tomorrow night on Bullseye beginning at 9 o'clock.